Welcome into 88.3 The Buzz, live from St. Bonaventure University. You're listening to the Director's Cut with Nic Rohloff and Tyler Smith. And we got to add the smartest and best radio sports people out there. Because, I mean, who would have thought the Bucs would have blown out the Chiefs? Who would have thought they would have won? Oh, just us.
Yep. Who would have thought that both hosts of any radio show in college or the professional sphere would both pick the Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl? Well, you're looking at them. It's Nic Rohloff and Tyler Smith on the Director's Cut on 88.3 FM. Now, this game was, it wasn't everything I could have hoped for. We obviously could have had a much better, or not much better, more exciting, more contentious game down the stretch. But this Bucs team, I said it, the defense was being overlooked. There were the problems with Kansas City were too big to overcome for a full-fledged and healthy Buccaneers roster, and Tom Brady just had to put the icing on the cake and take care of it. That's all.
I'd say about 60% of sports analysts out there pick the Chiefs. And, how could you not? You're just looking at that offense, unstoppable. The defense has played pretty good for most of the season. But one of the things we both pointed out is that 3 starting offensive linemen were down for the Chiefs. They were playing guard who's played for the first time all year. And when you have that front seven, who I said before the season, I've said it even when the defense was struggling, I said it throughout the season that they were still the best front seven in football. And they did more than I expected. And I could not believe, even with how bad the offensive line play was the Chiefs and their 2 starting tackles were out, I could not believe the pressure they were still getting.
It seemed as if on every single play, Mahomes was running for his life. And guess what? He was. Now, this stat blew my mind. Dan Orlovsky posted it on Twitter this morning. And obviously, once he throws out a stat that everybody likes, he's going to juice it up all over TV. But, it was really a great stat that I saw that when Mahomes dropped back to pass, he ran around before throwing the football last night for a combined 498 yards. Now, I don't know what the stat is or what the average is for a quarterback who normally is running for their life. I'd imagine it to be somewhere, in the 200, maybe 300 range tops. That's my best guess. Mahomes went at least 200 yards over the league average for a quarterback with a bad offensive line last night. He was he couldn't run faster from these defenders, and screaming off the edge. Shaq Barrett, the Dominican Sue gave him a good shot. JPP, and obviously the rest of that Tampa Bay front seven that was just wreaking havoc left and right. And I can't just say my congratulations to the defensive line, and I will get to who we believe is the most entertaining part of this defense in just a little bit. But I really got to give credit to Levante David, man. Whoa. What a performance. If he got that interception off the tip, he could have easily been Super Bowl MVP.
I'm so happy for him because he's been with him a long time, and he never made it to the playoffs. And then he makes it to the playoffs for the first time, and obviously he wins the Super Bowl, which is great. But you mentioned Levante David played a hell of a game. How about his partner in crime, Devin White? Second-year player, the way he played in this postseason, I believe 12 tackles, a pick at the end to seal the deal. He played like a madman, and I'm going to guess going into his third year next year, coming off of a Super Bowl victory, I would be very shocked and surprised if he was not recognized, and you're going to hate me for saying this, as the best middle linebacker in football halfway through next year. He is that special. He's only 22.
That's why I had to mention Levante David first, because I am such a Devin White guy. It's unreal. This guy can cover so much field in a matter of seconds, and he was showing that last night. He was making plays on the secondary, basically in the secondary, on the sideline, and then he was obviously covering the middle of the field as well, stopping the run. He was everywhere last night, and he's been everywhere all season. Now, I didn't mention him because I don't want to be able to admit that somebody's taking the crown from my guy Bobby Wagner. But Devin White is a special football player, and I cannot wait to see what he's going to be like when he hits his prime. Dude's 22. That's like most NFL players are older than 22 once they start their rookie season. Sometimes it's really remarkable what this guy's done at such a young age, and his career path is only going to go up from here. The Bucs, and we're going to get to that a little bit as well. The Bucs are only getting better.
Yeah, and these Bucs, they're young. They're like you said, we're gonna touch on it later. They're gonna be one of the best teams in the NFC. Probably, I believe they're either tied with Green Bay or they are the favorites for next year to come out of the NFC. But you can't. The defense played great, but the offense for the Bucs was just so efficient. I mean, Brady only threw for 200 yards, 201 to be exact, which isn't great. But 21 of 29, he only was sacked once. He was rarely pressured. They ran, like we mentioned 2 weeks ago on our Monday show, that and when we talked about the possibility of rain, which obviously I'm so happy it was perfect conditions because then we got to see the full game, no excuses, get played out. But the Bucs ran for 145 yards. If you were told me that was going to happen, I would have told you you're pretty surprised. Leonard Fournette, man, he played himself into a little bit of a contract. I'll tell you that.
Leonard Fournette, listen, playoff Lenny, Super Bowl Lenny, whatever you want to call him. I saw a certain NFL player yesterday on Twitter. It was Todd Gurley.
Yeah, that tweet was hilarious.
It was so funny. So they said he was talking about a debate between Ronald Jones or Leonard Fournette. Why didn't Jones see more carries? And Gurley replied with, whenever a running back or like a 25-year-old man goes bald voluntarily, you got to give him the ball. And that's the mantra that Leonard Fournette's been running with since his days at LSU. Guy's been rocking a chrome dome for a while now. But the way he ran yesterday was it was downhill. It was lowering the shoulder, nothing dirty, and he was able to bust out a big touchdown run. So I'm so happy for Leonard Fournette because that Jaguars team that they had was on the brink of multi-year success, and obviously with the man behind center, this didn't work out so well. Shut up, the boat Blake Bortles. But now he was released by Jacksonville, signed by Tampa Bay, and reinventing his career at just, 25, 26 years old?
Yeah, he's still young.
Yeah, he's very young, has got a long career ahead of him, and I'm so glad that he kind of silenced the haters this season because people were – I didn't even say myself counted Leonard Fournette out before the start of the season. So he was plagued by injuries, but he looks 110% healthy now. He looks, like you said, ready for a new contract.
I mean, this game was full of surprises. We mentioned, obviously, the Chiefs didn't score a touchdown. That was the first time that's ever happened to Patrick Mahomes as a starter. That's unbelievable to me. We would have thought the Bucs defense was going to be a difference maker and played great, but to hold the Chiefs without a touchdown if you called that, props to you.
I want to just chime in real quick that there was somebody who did say that Patrick Mahomes would not throw a touchdown in the entire Super Bowl. That was a plus 6,000 bet. And I think he put like $1,000 on it, won like 48 grand. It was something absurd. Guy, that Mahomes did not throw a touchdown, but the Chiefs as a whole team did not score any touchdowns, and I credit that to the Bucs red zone defense. I cannot give enough credit to this Bucs team.
Yeah, they were phenomenal. But I want to go back to the Bucs offense because if I were told you before the game that Rob Gronkowski and Leonard Fournette were the two leading receivers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you would have thought they probably were in for a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Evans had one catch for 100 not 100 yards, one catch for 30 yards on one target, even though that's a little different. That's a little wrong, in my opinion, because he did draw like two holdings, a couple pass interference. We'll talk about those in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But Antonio Brown, 5 for 22, Godwin, 2 for 9. You're telling me those top three wide receivers combined for about 62 yards, those three wide receivers, and they won the game by 22? My goodness, I would have never predicted that. But, man, Gronk looked like he was back in his prime. He was moving out there with some speed.
Gronk played so good yesterday that he didn't even think about a comment regarding retirement. He's like, I'm coming back. Yeah, played my butt off yesterday. Yep, let's do it again. Like, Gronk was running at full speed. He was he caught a really great ball that him and Brady have connected on in the back of the end zone for so many years, and it just showed that he's just the same threat that he was. I wouldn't say 5 years ago, but I would say he's the same threat he was 3.
Yeah, and listen, Travis Kelce set an actual Super Bowl record for yards by a tight end in the game. He had 10 catches for 133 yards, but he got outplayed by Gronk. That has to be the most empty 10 catches for 130 yards I've ever seen. Gronk obviously had 2 touchdowns, 6 for 67. He had more of an impact on this game than Travis Kelce, and if you would have said that before the game, everyone would have called you nuts.
So Rob Gronkowski had far less than 10 catches. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not looking at any stats right now. I will guarantee that Rob Gronkowski had more catches in the red zone than Travis Kelce yesterday.
I mean, yeah, because
it always seemed like it was at the opposite 20-yard line or the 50, or it was just always in the open fields when he got the ball. And he's very effective in that regard. But, that's a guy that you got to go into the red zone 2 out of the 4 downs.
Well, yeah, but when you talk about Gronk, and we talked about this on our Tuesday show, a special Remote Radio Row, we were talking about these 2 tight ends. Gronk is just such a big target, and that's why he is probably, you could call him the greatest tight end of all time. You could say it's Tony Gonzalez. You can argue both cases, but I think you can't argue that Rob Gronkowski in his prime was the most dominant tight end of all time. Is because we said it. He's 6'6", big guy, and it is fast. And when he had 2 weeks off and he wasn't even used in that much catching the ball in the playoffs. He only had 2 catches in these playoffs coming into this game. And then he had some speed, he had a rest, and he was able to dominate like he was back in 2016, 2017.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I can't say enough about Gronk's performance and just really all the Tampa Bay performance as a whole. I mean, Tom Brady he only threw less than 30 passes. Mahomes threw one less than 50. And you know what? I kind of want to really switch gears to that now because Clyde Edwards-Helaire was running pretty well. And, I mean, I know they were playing from behind for most of the game, but in that early third quarter, you got to find some identity in this football game, and the Chiefs could never get that going. Edwards-Helaire did open the third quarter up with a 25, 26-yard run, and they just totally abandoned the run after that. I mean, they were only down, 2 scores at halftime? You set the tone on a nice drive, running the football. Say you take 5-6 minutes off the clock. That's okay. You're still down, and you this is assuming you score a touchdown. So you're at this point only down 1 score, and you're Patrick Mahomes. That's all that needs to be said. When you're down 1 score and your name's Patrick Mahomes, there's a good chance you're going to win the game. But the Chiefs totally abandoned the run game, and they just left Mahomes out there and fed him to the Lions because that was a matador offensive line that he had out there. See, and this is the exact game plan that people are going to look to in the future when playing the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's not underestimate what the Bucs did. They pitched a perfect game. Whatever they could not miss on what they were doing. They were running cover 2 almost pretty much the whole game. Either whether cover 2 zone or cover 2 man. They were just dropping back, putting 3 people on Tyreek Hill, no deep shot. And we know what they said? If you want to run the ball, fine. But you're not going to get a deep shot. Mm-hmm. Travis Kelce had 130 yards on 10 catches. Why is that? Because they held him to 6-7 yard catches. He had a couple 20-yarders, and that's why it's 10 for 133. But they were like, fine, you have the 6-yard. You have the 7-yard. And then when you want to take a shot deep, we're going to pounce on you, and we're going to pick you off. Or if you want to take a shot deep, that front 4, JPP, Shaq Barrett, you're not going to have the time for that. The Bucs defense, Todd Bowles, can't say enough. They played fantastic. The front 4 and the 2 middle linebackers got a lot of credit, but you can't forget about the most entertaining secondary in football. We love them. We might be the biggest fan of them. We are these Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary fan club. The director's cut is that title. We love these guys, and like I said on Twitter last night, verify Jordan Whitehead, verify Carlton Davis will never get off the train. These guys are so awesome and so entertaining, and they just everything you love about young players playing football. These guys exemplify that. They balled out, and they showed that they're no slouch.
No, Carlton Davis played great. Antoine Winfield played phenomenal. Jamel Dean played really good.
I love Jamel Dean, man. He's great.
You said Whitehead. Sean Murphy bunting. He had a pick in all 3 playoff games. Didn't get one in this one, but he played good. I mean, Tyreek Hill still had 7 for 73, but he got locked up.
Yeah, that's locked up for Tyreek Hill.
Because that's crazy to think, too, because 7 for 73 is a pretty, I'd say, above average game for a wide receiver.
Yep.
Like, if you were to have that every single game in the season, you'd have a great regular season. But when you consider this Chiefs offense and how much they rely on the deep ball with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce over the middle, Tyreek Hill got locked up, and they had a perfect game plan. I believe I saw a stat where Tyreek Hill was not in single coverage one time the whole game.
Wow.
So the only time that he caught those balls were in man-to-man over the middle where the guy with help over the top, he couldn't get there in time.
Yeah, Tyreek would get the ball in these open field situations. And, to be quite honest, I would maybe even take Tyreek Hill getting a 7-yard slant and running for 40 yards over a Tyreek Hill 40-yard bomb. He's so good in the open field at making guys miss. Makes about 4 different moves in one or 2 steps. It's really fascinating to watch. But they were able to, they weren't allowing anything deep. So when they got this, it was really just a perfect matchup for the Bucs defense on Tyreek Hill because a lot of those guys are very fast. Like we said, Devin White, Levante David's got some wheels on him. JPP's playing outside linebacker now, so he's got some wheels on him. And then, like we said, the secondary, those guys are all really fast. And then they had always had help over the top to, crash in on Tyreek and force him to the sideline. And he wouldn't break out these huge plays that would get Kansas City back in the game because guess what? Kansas City would already be 3rd and 30 when Tyreek Hill got this 22-yard reception. They were already it was such a bad, they were set up to fail the entire game. And when Tyreek Hill was able to get the ball in space, he just couldn't find enough to be able to get first downs and keep the chains moving because this Tampa Bay defense, I've said it, maybe this is the 5th time now I've said it on this show, they balled.
Yes, they did. And we talk about how good the defense have played, but let's flip it and look at the other side of the ball, the Kansas City Chiefs. What went wrong for them? Was there anything you could specifically point to, Tyler?
We've already said the things that we believe were the biggest catalyst to them, being made uncomfortable and taking them out of the game plan. So obviously the offensive line being banged up plays a huge role. I'm not going to say it doesn't because Nick, you wanted to add a segment that I didn't have previously into the show, and if we have time, we will get to that at the end. And there are certain quarterbacks who we have seen play at a very high level with an abysmal offensive line, and Patrick Mahomes saw that for the first time last night. And albeit I don't know if this is true, but everybody's saying he's playing on a bum foot. I get it. I mean, if that's what you want to go with, I was a defender of saying Curry was injured in the 2016 finals. So if Mahomes did have that banged up foot, that is very unfortunate for the Chiefs to be in that situation in the Super Bowl. But he was still making throws basically on his back. Like, he dropped the greatest incomplete pass I have ever seen in my life. He was being dragged down worse than Eli Manning was on the helmet catch. And he somehow flung it to the back of the end zone right in the corner, and the guy almost came down with it. Like, there is no reason to blame Patrick Mahomes for this loss. The Chiefs were just put at a total disadvantage, and the Bucs were a perfect matchup for it. That's what I think went wrong for the Chiefs.
Yeah, you mentioned that O-line, and it's been almost 24 hours since the game started. So I've taken my time. I've looked at some things, and listen, Patrick Mahomes is not a system quarterback. He is still the best quarterback in the league. But you would be out of your mind to say having arguably the greatest offensive mind of all time, having the best tight end in the league, and having the fastest wide receiver and a top 5 wide receiver with a good old line isn't a part of what makes him great. Last night, and granted, I know the Bucs defense is top tier, but you just saw on a national stage that not everyone gets to see all the time what Joe Burrow had to deal with, what Deshaun Watson has to deal with. It's crazy, but what Kirk Cousins has to deal with. Those 3 guys are Sean Watson, with bottom 3 O-lines, and even with how bad the O-line was for the Chiefs yesterday and how banged up they were, if they played the whole regular season with O-line, it still wouldn't be the worst in the league. The Jets O-line was worse than what they played with. The worst.
Terribly banged up O-line. Lamar was running for his life as well.
So Chiefs fans, you better hope they keep Patrick Mahomes protected and they will. I know they will.
They can't afford not to.
But you witnessed firsthand what these other quarterbacks have to deal with. It's not always sunshine everywhere. Like they have had the past 2 years with him being starter. Because this is what I'm saying. Mahomes is fantastic. But if you were to switch him and Burrow, you would begin to think Patrick Mahomes would be doing what he's doing on the Chiefs.
Oh, no, and you're totally right. I believe Mahomes would be putting up very good numbers because that's just the player he is. But he's not going to have the same success as having Andy Reid, like you said, all those guys. I just wanted to touch on this. We don't have too much time before we go to break. This wasn't something that I thought was very impactful whatsoever, but I wanted to get your thoughts on it. People on Twitter, I guess it had to be people who had Chiefs money, just thought the referees were kind of handing the Bucs this game. I do not see that whatsoever.
No, I disagree with that fully all the way. They will look at the Brady. I don't get why it's got to be Chiefs money line or the ultimate Brady hate to think that wasn't holding. When Mike Evans was trying to turn around, he was getting grabbed.
On the one where he fell?
No, okay. Not that one.
That was a pass interference.
Yeah, the interception was called back as a defensive holding.
Oh, yeah, because the ball looked like it was totally...
It was going to Mike Evans.
Yeah, it was going to Mike Evans.
It's a line of scrimmage.
Uh-huh.
And he got grabbed. And then the deep ball at the end of the half to Mike Evans, what you're talking about, interception, he fell down. Evans might have not been able to catch that ball.
But he could have got a fingertip on it.
He could have had a chance if he didn't get his foot grabbed by a defender that was on the ground. That's the right call. The only call I didn't agree with was the one at the end of the half that put them at the 1 yard line.
Yes.
That was uncatchable. It was a penalty. I think it was. But it would not have been pass interference. It should have been illegal contact because he did hit him in the end zone while Evans was about to turn around. But the ball was uncatchable. Should have been illegal contact, only half a distance to the goal. So they wouldn't have been at the 1.
It would have been, I think it would have been at I don't even know, probably 2.5.
No, because they were from the 10 when they threw it. So it would have been the 5 yard line with 10 seconds left.
Yeah, so it only would have been the 5 yard line. They still had to get 5 more and get in the end zone, but they had that easy. Great route, by the way. I just want to
AB cooked him.
Great route by AB, and I just want to touch on him real quick. What a story! I mean, talk about a guy who did everything wrong and still came out on top. Antonio Brown definitely reinvented himself as the rest of the season went on, keeping his mouth shut and winning football games, and now he's a champion. So listen, I'm not love the guy he is, but I'm happy to see him finally win the big one.
Yeah, and one more thing before we had the break, talking about the referees and the flags. The Chiefs were a top 5 penalized team this year.
Oh, yeah.
Regular season. And I was watching Undisputed with Skip and Shan Sharp.
2 of the brightest minds we have.
Yeah. Listen, I think they're just trolls, but they're entertaining.
Oh, absolutely.
Shannon Sharp he's a Mahomes guy. He was rooting for him. He loves Patrick Mahomes. And he's openly said on today's show that he had several interactions on Twitter with Chiefs fans saying you're not going to be able to win if you commit these penalties in the playoffs. But those Chiefs fans always said, "Nah, we're still winning, doesn't matter." This is who they are. They do this every week in the secondary. They grab, they play physical, and when you get caught, they're going to be upset and say it's the ref's fault, but that's the way they play. And if you're going to play that way, you're going to get burned by it sometimes. But I do got to say, though, I also saw some hate on the field goal that they made, and they called offsides, and they were upset about that for online for some reason. He was so clearly offsides, McCole Hardman. I cannot believe people tried to argue that he wasn't offside.
So that argument was regarding the female referee yesterday. So those people were just in total poor taste when conjuring up those thoughts. She's a line judge. Offsides is not a judgment call. If you're over the line of scrimmage, you're over the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, what do you think? Someone's going to make it up to help another team?
It's not like she's not there to do that. And I know they did reference that she named her son at Brady after Tom Brady's second Super Bowl. But no, you have to be impartial in that. And obviously the NFL does wide vetting processes of picking Super Bowl referees. Like, this is the biggest sporting event of the year. I think they're going to do their homework. But one more thing about the referees. The Chiefs did not do anything to help their cause as far as penalties, as far as getting themselves back in the game. Tyrann Mathieu was a total head case last night for the first time in a long time that I've seen, just getting totally upset about all these calls that were clearly justifiable on the Chiefs' end. So the Chiefs were in the first half, at least, playing like sore losers. They had a lot of soul-searching to do at halftime, and they just couldn't make it all up in 30 minutes of game time.
Yeah, as we had the break, one last thing I want to say. If Chiefs fans, you can't blame on the refs. You scored 9 points. Don't you dare. Don't because they scored 10 points alone in the second half, and there was no penalties at all.
Yeah,
that would have won the game
still
there. So I don't want to hear Chiefs fans, Brady haters say that it was on the refs, because you scored 9 points in a Super Bowl, you deserve to lose.
Be better in the red zone. Shout out Lofa Tupu.
Yeah. We'll have the break. When we come back, we talk a disappointing Bonnie's loss on Saturday, and we break down some more college hoops. Stay tuned on Direct Go. Nic Rohloff and Tyler Smith from 88.3 The Buzz. Live from St. Bonaventure University on 88.3 The Buzz. We heard Nicholson probably the second greatest Bonaventure player ever behind Bob Lanier. But an unfortunate loss for the Bonnies, 70-59 in St. Louis on Saturday in St. Louis. There's a lot of stuff we could take away from this game, and all my fears came true.
Yeah, I'll own up to it. I said that we were legit. I still think we're legit. I still think we're a tournament team. We'll get to the path for that in just a little bit, but it was a tough loss Saturday. We were in it. Obviously, we led for a total of 41 seconds in the second half. After a pretty abysmal first half, closed it out pretty nice. But it just seemed like St. Louis the entire game. And I referenced this in my article on WSBUFM.com after the George Mason game, is that this team's not deep. They're not. And you can't rely on playing 5 or 6 guys in March. And I think they realized that a month early. So you know what? Maybe that's a positive. But the Bonnies were not deep on Saturday. And when you see somebody like Jaren Holmes get into early foul trouble with 3 in the first half, you got to dive into that bench. And those guys haven't seen a lot of action this year. And you put them up against the presumptive favorite to win the A-10 in the preseason, and you're just not going to come out with a win. It's plain and simple.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things you could point to. You pointed to the lack of depth, which is obviously pretty big. They just struggled. I mean, you saw Oshuni be absolute gassed late in that second half, barely being able to make it up and down the floor, because he was playing such hard defense and was playing very, very well defensively.
Exactly.
But he just could not. He couldn't take it anymore. The St. Louis could throw 3 bigs at you. Hassan French, and I'm losing my mind on the other 2, but they ran 3 bigs on him, and they were successful with it.
Yeah. Linson. What's his name? Martin Linson. Yeah, this guy, absolute hoss. Like, the guy is huge, and he was having his way with Oshuni down low in the second half. He doesn't play too much, only averages 6 points, 2 boards. He's not their catalyst for success, but when he was needed for St. Louis at a vulnerable time for Oshuni, he used that big frame and was able to create position down low for not only easy buckets, but box outs as well, as we were being out rebounded. It's funny, I thought we were being totally out rebounded this entire game. However, if you look at the stats, the offensive rebounds, we were tied. I thought that they might have blown us out by 20 from the way that the game looked on the offensive boards. But the defensive rebounds, we only surrendered 2 less than them. So I was pretty confused as to what went wrong. I'll tell you, Javonte Perkins, that's what went wrong, ending up with a St. Louis runaway.
Yeah. My main 3 takeaways from this game, and I'll list them all out, was I already said and agreed with you about the lack of depth was big. My second takeaway was the 3-point shooting for Bonaventure is bad. I've said that you can't win games like that. I tweeted out after the game that you can't beat good teams with one person that's a threat from 3. Because, I mean, I guess Jaren is, but ever since that St. Joe's game, he's been struggling hard shooting from the field. So after that game, he really hasn't been effective from deep at all. And then the third, I did not understand the zone defense.
Oh, see, I kind of did. I liked it. I didn't mind it. We couldn't play man with them. Nope.
So I understood the zone when we were in early foul trouble, and Jaren had 3 fouls, so when he came back in, they tried to hide him, so they couldn't go at him to get a 4th. I understood the zone then. But when you saw Javonte Perkins get 3 straight wide open threes and make them all, that is when, to me, all right, man-to-man.
Okay, so it was effective. It was actually getting torn apart at first, which is funny. And then we adjusted early in the second half. We were creating a bunch of turnovers, with active hands up top, and they weren't getting a lot of passes off with ease. So we were doing very well, but what happened was that there was so much rotation. These guys were playing a great defensive game up until the late second half, and like I said, everybody was gassed. You have to be able to rotate with quickness. You have to be quick on your feet with the first step to closing out on defenders. And by the midway point of the second half, they just couldn't do it anymore with the 5 guys they were running out there.
I mean, you saw Kyle Lofton play 40 minutes, Oshun play 37, Jalen Attaway play 39, and Dom play 38. That is absurd. And the broadcasters for CBS Sports mentioned it. It was a weird take, but I see what they were going for. They said that the lack of games for the Bonnies has helped their ability to have a good record because of the rest the starters have had, and so they could play these 40-minute games.
Yeah.
But you saw against teams that are good and can wear you down, that's just not going to work. You're going to need help off the bench. AJ Vasquez played 14 minutes. He only had 2 points.
He would have played less if Holmes didn't get hurt.
Oh yeah, you had Eddie Creel play 3 minutes.
He wouldn't have played at all.
Jalen Shaw 3 minutes. He needs to play more, and just to save Oshun. I mean, Oshun is so good defensively, and he really because the Bonnies are a really good defensive team. This is the first team in the A10 to score 70 points or more on them, and it all starts to me with Oshun protecting the basket. But when you constantly ask him to defend inside and help others who get blown by for 40 minutes, that takes a toll.
And then you ask him to run screener rolls on offense, which at that point he's already he's got 5 blocks. He's been battling inside with French and he just didn't have the energy anymore. It was visible. Like these CBS, some of the CBS sports guys, not the play-by-play guy typically. However, some of their color commentators don't seem to do a lot of homework on A10 and the Bonnies. But it was so obvious and so visible for them to see that they couldn't not mention that Oshun had his hands on his knees and could barely stand up. He got a solid break in the first half. We didn't go down too much. Actually, I'd say that Jalen Shaw played some pretty decent 3 minutes. All you had to do in the second half, and I'm talking to Mark Schmidt right now, is just sit Oshun with 10 minutes to go, 8 minutes to go for 2 minutes. I'm saying 2 minutes. And by the way, Mark Schmidt didn't call a timeout from probably the 10-minute mark all the way to the 4-minute mark, which is when the Bonnies were their most gassed. So I think there were some second half adjustments that were great, but then there was also some second half adjustments that you saw later in that worked against the Bonnies' favor, and I think that's part of that's going to be on Schmidt.
Yeah, and we talked about the 3-point shooting and the lack of it for the Bonnies. Jalen Attaway went 2 for 3, so that's something to keep your eye on, because we said last week that if he just shot 35% on corner threes, this team would get infinitely better. So that is the only positive takeaway for me from this game is he went 2 for 3 from 3, and he shot 35% from 3 when he played for Miami, Ohio before he transferred to Bonaventure. So maybe this game gets him to shoot more threes because the Bonnies need it badly. But they went 6 and 19 from 3. Dom went 3 of 8. And it almost felt like when they were down by 10 late, they had to shoot threes, which means Dom had to force it. And when they had to force threes up, then St. Louis could just key in on Dom because Kyle's shooting 330 and 8% from 3. Like, what's going on?
I mean, that I can't explain. I still have no idea because he shot it with confidence last season. He has the ability. He made a tough clutch game winner 3 against Richmond. So we know he has the ability. It's just not going in the basket, and we're waiting for that so that the Bonnies can still have can put together a complete game, because that's not what we saw against St. Louis. Now, looking ahead, the Bonnies have actually 2 games this week. As somebody who constantly criticizes the Atlantic Time for not getting these games in and scheduled for the Bonnies, we're double dipping this week. We got a Tuesday game and a Friday night game on ESPN2 heading down to VCU. But tomorrow we play LaSalle, who actually just beat St. Louis, but they also just lost to Fordham. So we don't really know what we're going to get with LaSalle tomorrow and the Explorers.
They're under 500 too.
But I'll tell you, we're going to need to guard Beatty because that guy can shoot, and he's basically the same thing that Javonte Perkins was for St. Louis when LaSalle actually beat the Billikens. So we're going to need to get a hand-in on him, and if we can do that and limit his scoring, I think we're going to come out with a pretty decisive win tomorrow. I know our station manager, Tom Sipe, thinks a little different. However, that's a game that I think we should take care of, although historically, St. Bonaventure has had trouble with LaSalle when they're gunning for an NCAA tournament. But VCU, I'm definitely a little more hesitant for.
See, LaSalle, it's a weird team. It's like the A10 version of Florida State. They don't have a single person, I guess if you round up, but no one technically registers double-digit points per game. But they play about this, I think, 10 guys over 14 minutes. That's a lot. And what's the Bonnie's biggest weakness? Depth. So if they're going to constantly run 10 guys out there and we're playing consistently 6 guys, that could play a factor in this game. It's concerning considering LaSalle has beaten Dayton, Richmond, and St. Louis, technically the top 3 A10 preseason rankings. We're next on that Grim Reaper meme door. We're next.
Oh, yeah.
So we better come out and play strong tomorrow, or this season could spiral downhill quickly.
Oh, yeah. And even looking ahead after that, we have UMass was canceled, so they're on pause. I don't know if we're going to get that game rescheduled, but if we do, Trey Mitchell's going to give us problems. I can already see that happening. GW have to win it. There's some of these games that you can't even talk about for more than 2 seconds because you just have to win them in order to get in the tournament. GW is one of those games. I don't know if we don't play Duquesne again, so I don't know why that's not on the schedule. It's very tough with this whole college basketball season to see who's on the schedule, but we do need games against Davidson. We need another game against Richmond, and we need another game against St. Louis.
I'm fine if we don't play St. Louis. I'm fine with it.
I'd like to see them the next time we play them as the A10 championship. So, I'd like that. But currently, we do have a game rescheduled for St. Louis, and I did have that in the show notes as well. Do you even think we have a chance to beat St. Louis a second time?
I do. But there needs to be changes.
Oh, yeah.
And the only change that I could think of is more three-point makes. I mean, they shot 6 of 19. And obviously you can't shoot 50% from 3 every game. But just 3 more makes, just think about that, is you're in the game. That's 9 points.
Yep.
Jaron shot 1 of 5 from 3 in that game, and his misses were ugly. So that was interesting. And like we said, Kyle's 3, I don't know, it's 3 of 30, somewhere in that range, shooting 8% from 3. He has been a 30%, 32, 33 career three-point shooter through his first 2 years. If he just was shooting his career average, not even improving from 3, this would be a much more dangerous team. Because like I said, you can't beat a team, especially a good team, with 1 3-point shooter.
And with their 3-point shooting, I mean, it's not even like they're getting super open looks either. Like, the only person that I saw in that entire game getting open looks was Attaway, and that's because he doesn't shoot them.
Yeah, they were letting him shoot.
Yeah, letting him shoot, and hopefully that's something that teams shouldn't be able to do as we close this the regular season. But on the threes that Dom hit, like, I was like, oh my god, like I hope that's going in, but I'm not so sure because he's in the defender's right in his grill. So that Bonnie's the reason they don't shoot the outside 3 ball very well is because they take a ton of contested ones. I mean, you got to find, and they take a ton of threes, like we saw from Jaron, from 3 or 4 feet behind the line. So the Bonnies have to figure out with the 3-point shooting how to get guys open and how to get guys efficient threes, not just hoisting it from 28 feet out. Like we're not in the NBA. We're not doing that. And like you said, Kyle's got to get better from 3 as well, because we were talking about it pre-show. He steps in 1 foot inside the 3-point line. It's water every time. Water. Like, he was making some shots that, like, I'm not going to say he was Kobe Bryant or anything, but like they were the shots that Kobe Bryant would be taking, 1 step, 2 steps inside the 3-point line, and he was just draining them with ease. Just take 1 step back and bend your knees a little more, buddy.
So we talk about if we're going to be a tournament team and what the schedule looks like moving forward. And we talked about rescheduling games. I expect 3 games more on the schedule because we got 2 this week.
Yeah.
And then we have a 1, I think it's Saturday. Could be Sunday. The 21st of February. I don't know if that's a Saturday or Sunday, but either way.
21st of February, we're scheduled to play GW right now.
Yeah, and it is a Sunday. I expect the game to be added either Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'd hope. Probably either Davidson or Richmond.
And then you need another one in between GW and Dayton. That's a week away.
Which I expect that to be
probably Richmond
or
Richmond's-
Davidson or whatever one doesn't get scheduled the week before.
because the problem is with these teams that Richmond's on pause right now. UMass is on pause right now, so that's 2 weeks. I mean, Richmond's been on for about a week now since they got their St. Louis game canceled, but UMass just got on a few days ago. So
yeah, and then the Duquesne game that's scheduled for March 3rd, the last game on our schedule, that already was played.
yes, it was already played in favor of our second GW game, or I think our first GW game, or the St. Louis game. I forget which one it was.
I think it was the St. Louis game.
We've had so many games canceled this season that we can't even keep track of when teams missed our or when teams went on pause in relation to us. So it's been brutal scheduling year for the A10 and the Bonnies. But hey,
but the three schools of Richmond, Davidson, and UMass, maybe St. Louis, those three I expect to see on the schedule. And to bring this up in our hopes for a March Madness bid and an at-large bid, if we don't win the A10 tournament, I would expect you have to only lose one of those games.
wow. I can't see that happening right now. The A10 is
Exactly.
too much of a dumpster fire right now, and it's a dumpster fire in a good way. A lot of these teams, you know what, they deserve a lot more respect than they get. But if we go just over the next, like the 4 hardest remaining games on the schedule for the Bonnies, VCU, Dayton. Wow, there's 5 games that I consider that we could lose any of those 5. Dayton, VCU, Richmond, Davidson, and if St. Louis gets, say St. Louis or UMass gets rescheduled, I would think it would be UMass. So I'd say they have four really tough games ahead of them. They go 2-2, and then they end the season like 16-4? Are they even gonna get that many games? I don't know.
I don't know. That'd be 20 games. They're at 11 now. They have 4 games on the schedule. I only see 7, maybe 8 total games left.
So yeah, they have to say they go 6-2 in there. 15-4. Does that get us in?
That doesn't. I don't think it does.
No, a lot of teams are going to have that type of record.
I think it would have to be 16-3 and make it deep in the A10s. If you want to make the tournament on that large bid without winning the A10.
This is why I think this conference needs more respect, because there's a lot of teams that can just really beat up on each other. So maybe it doesn't deserve as much respect as I'm saying, because all the teams are kind of at the same level. But you know, there's still very competitive basketball teams. Like on Lenardi's first 4 out of last week, he had St. Louis, VCU, and Richmond all in the first 4 out. So all those teams are on the bubble, as well as the Bonnies were in as the automatic qualifier. And it was funny. I saw this morning, one of the CBS guys did a bracket. We're still on the 9 line.
Did he watch Saturday?
I was going to say, he moved St. Louis up to a 9, and we're still a 9. Playing, I believe, Rutgers, but that's just, there's no way we're a 9 seed right now. I'd say we're a 10.
I would say if we weren't still in first in the A10, I would say we would be the last 4 in.
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
no. If we weren't still first in the A10, I'd say we'd probably be a 12 or 11 play-in game. Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, we previewed the LaSalle game just for a tad, but before we move into other college basketball, let's talk about the game on Friday against VCU.
That's the one that matters.
We hope that I would not be surprised if Bonaventure lost to LaSalle tomorrow, but I think they would win. VCU in VCU, ESPN2, 7 o'clock. That one, I would pick VCU to win the game.
We just don't show up in big games. I mean, VCU's 13-4. That's I'm telling you right now.
We shouldn't have beat them the first time. We got lucky.
I don't know if we got lucky.
Well, we beat them by 16, but we were down 15 at half.
So we just totally turn on the Jets. I mean, that's what I got out of that game. However, historically, Bonnies don't play great on ESPN too.
They don't play good against VCU historically either.
Yeah, no. And I'll tell you right now, 13-4 with 6-2 in conference is way better than 9-2, 7-2 in conference. I'm telling you that right now.
It still hurts me that Rhode Island lost in our 4th game of the year because we should, or I think it was 3rd game of the year.
Yeah, it was our first non-conference, or it was our first conference game, or second conference game.
100% would have won that game if Jaron played. It was our first conference game, by the way. We were 2-0 heading into that game.
Currently, ESPN has a matchup predictor at 53% VCU 47 Bonnies.
They'll be favorites, and if I had to put money on it, I'd take Bonaventure as underdog.
Oh, I love betting the Bonnies as an underdog.
But I do think VCU will win. Bones Highland's on a tear right now.
Bones Highland is
He's on a
averaging
bender.
God, like
he just won Player of the Week.
Yeah, he's top 5 in points per game in the A10. He's only a sophomore. He's shooting 87% from the line, which is ridiculous. 43% from the field. He's averaged 20 points basically. He's a very good. But I'm not gonna lie, I don't see a lot of scoring threats outside of him on VCU. So
they're young. They're going to be really good. You're going to get tortured by them when I graduate.
Yeah, we'll probably have to concede that game at halftime. But no, I do think that we have a chance, obviously, to beat this VCU team on Friday. But it's very hard to sweep a season series against a team that's pretty much just as good as you. So that's definitely something to look out for on Friday night. But hey, tune in to ESPN 2 because the Bonnies are on national television. Doesn't always work out great for us, though.
Before we move into the thing, just A10 wise, how many bids do you think this team get? How many teams in the tournament?
It's a tough question. It really is.
It could
joke, anywhere from 2 to 4 or 1 to 4.
That's what I'm saying. No joke. It could be 4, which would be outstanding for the league.
Oh yeah.
And it could literally be 1, depending on who wins.
That's why I think these good A10 teams need to stop losing to the likes of Fordham and LaSalle and George Mason and all these bottom feeder A10 teams. You gotta win the games that you need, man.
Like Richmond, Bonaventure, VCU, and St. Louis all have the talent of a NCAA tournament team.
Oh yeah,
but
gotta put the resume together.
John Rothstein loves saying that A10 cannibalizes itself, and he's not wrong. Like
I saw a thread not a thread, but it was just a single tweet of say Bonaventure beats somebody, and then that person beats the next person, and then it just keeps going this pattern for all 13 or whatever 14 teams in the A10, and they've all beat like the next team is always beating the next team. Like, it's crazy how this league operates. But like you said, yeah, anywhere from 1 to 4, I would lean towards 2 being probably the most likely right now.
And out of all the years to where the A10 deserves a shot, I think this might be the year that they deserve the A10 more bids than ever. And because of this reason, it's a perfect transition into Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, and North Carolina are all unranked for the first time since 1961.
And UCLA as well.
And UCLA, who they just got ranked and then lost their first game as a ranked team to USC.
All the blue bloods, baby.
But
Gone.
Is that good or bad for college basketball?
See, I've thought about this a lot because you could go either way. I don't think there's a wrong answer here. Because college basketball, over the past year or so, has been taking some pretty public hits. I mean, guys getting paid under the table. That creates so much tension and controversy for college basketball to the point where the NBA just said, "Listen, we're going to if kids want to get paid, we're going to let them come play for these select G League teams, and then they can get drafted after one season. That's what we're going to let happen. That's going to market the NBA better. That's going to market the G League better." And college basketball is kind of taking a back seat. Now, I do believe that college basketball has been more entertaining this year. I think that there's no clear-cut champion right now, although Gonzaga and Baylor do seem like the front runners, but this just seems like a total crazy march that we're going to have because a lot of these teams can play with each other. I mean, you see not only is the A10 cannibalizing itself, the Big 10's cannibalizing itself. The Big 12 is too. All these conferences, nobody has that great of a conference record this season. And, I'm glad that we get to see a lot of programs and coaches and just cultures that we haven't seen dominate college basketball before. But like I said, for the marketability, not having Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, UNC, UCLA, kind of in the prominent stage for college basketball, it's got to hurt for money reasons.
It might hurt the NCAA in their ratings and money, but I think it's good for college basketball. You got Ohio State ranked 4th, Illinois 6th, Missouri 10, Alabama 11,
Missouri I love, by the way.
Texas 13, Oklahoma 12. Remember Loyola Chicago? Yeah, they're ranked 23rd.
Should be us, man.
I mean, that is just teams that you don't see ranked often. They're ranked. It's awesome to see. I think it's good for college basketball. I feel bad for one team that I glossed over because we put a death curse on them, and I'm talking about Iowa. because we had this, was it the first show back of the semester 2 weeks ago? We talked about who would be our third and fourth best teams behind Baylor and Gonzaga. We say Iowa. What has happened since? Lost 4 out of the last 5.
Oh my God. This team, I don't get. Well, listen, they've been missing players in some of these games, but I said it on a few shows back that Iowa's one of the deepest teams in the country. So they should be able to play with some of these Big Ten teams. But like I said before, the Big Ten's very good. I mean, Indiana is going to make the tournament. I don't want to hear it. They're going to make it.
Iowa lost to Indiana twice this year.
Yeah, so that's already an upgrade for Indiana. Ohio State's 7th in the nation. Tom Izzo is going to find a way to make the tournament. Illinois, I think Illinois could make the Final Four. And then you got Richard Patel and Minnesota making some noise in the top 25 as well. Like Iowa's played some good teams, and even Rutgers, who's top 25 right now as well. They have their second matchup against them just tomorrow night. So we got to see a big game out of Iowa and a statement game from Luka Garza, just blowing one of these decent or good Big Ten teams out of the water, so they can kind of cement themselves back to top 10 standing.
And they get a brutal schedule coming up. They got 25th ranked Rutgers Wednesday. Then they got Michigan State right after that. And Michigan State's down, so they could win that. They got 21st ranked Wisconsin. Then
Penn State
Penn State's good
on the bubble.
They get a little bit of a break, and then 4th ranked Ohio State, 5th ranked Michigan, 21st ranked Wisconsin on the year. Iowa's got to figure it out.
Oh, and don't forget they have the most competitive conference tournament in the country.
Yeah. So I feel bad for Iowa. We traded in being right about Iowa for being right about the Super Bowl. I'll take it.
Solid consolation.
I'll take the trade.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for Iowa because we put them in a death curse, like I said. Hopefully they get back out of it. But we're gonna have to break. We're gonna get back. We talk this week in this league, NBA. There's a lot going on. Trade rumors. The top team struggling. A lot to get into when we come back on Director's Cut live from 88.3 The Buzz. Welcome back to 88.3 The Buzz. You're listening to the Director's Cut with Nic Rohloff and Tyler Smith. Great first hour breaking down Super Bowl, Bonnie's basketball, college hoops. Now we get into NBA hoops and hashtag this week in this league. A weird trade went down Sunday.
Okay,
Let's start with that.
Very weird.
Derrick Rose is reunited with Tom Thibodeau. The next trade, a second-round pick and a G League player, Dennis Smith Jr.
Put some respect on Dennis' name.
For Derrick Rose. And before I turn it over to you, I have never been more confused in a trade in my life. And
I'm surprised we're on the same page here.
Derrick Rose is good. He could have helped a contender a lot off the bench with his scoring. And to get him basically for free from a non-contender, in quotation marks for the people watching the stream, I didn't get it at all. So I guess I'll get your thoughts on it now.
Okay, so the Knicks are, I guess, they're contending, and not contending for a playoff spot with the expanded playoff push. So they're sitting at like the 9 or 10 right now, and they're probably only a game and a half game back out of the 8 seed. So I guess you could say the Knicks are making a playoff push. However, this doesn't really do much for me as far as them making the playoffs. I mean, Derrick Rose, the Pistons were the worst team in the East, and he was probably he was the second leading scorer on that team. So I'm not seeing much change for the Knicks with the addition of Rose. And the number one issue that I have, number one gripe I have with this trade is that the Knicks Knicks fans finally have a player to root for, Emmanuel Quickley. And what do? You go trade for a point guard. Oh, wait, who closed the game last night? Elfrid Payton.
Yes.
What?
Yes. So when I saw that the Knicks were engaged with trade talks for Derrick Rose, it was happening during the Heat-Knicks game on Sunday at 1. That's when the reports came out. And I was like, okay, they're probably going to trade Elfrid Payton and maybe a pick for Derrick Rose, and they're going to start quickly and bring Rose off the bench. No. And then they have Frank Ntilikina, who is a Knicks fan favorite. Just ask our station manager, Tom. He's a second shout out on the show tonight.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't get it. And they still have they have 4 point guards now. And now there was a rumor today that Elfrid Payton could be wanted by a contending team, which I don't get that either. But anyway, there's just too many guards on the Knicks. And then you got RJ Barrett, who should be like a ball handling 2 or 3 for them. The Knicks, we thought they were taking a step in the right direction with the good draft of Quickley and RJ coming along and Randall coming along. It's just they take one, and the saying is 2 steps up, 1 step back. It's almost like they took a step up, but 2 steps back. I don't get it.
Okay, so the Knicks last year, what they do? They signed eight power forwards, right?
Power forward.
They do the power forward thing. Then they draft Obi Toppin. Oh, no, the power forward. Then they had assigned Austin Rivers. We're forgetting that Austin Rivers is also on this team.
He's going to be traded too soon.
Oh, yeah,
he has to be. There's too many guards. Like, I'm not saying they're all good, but they're enough of a caliber of a player to get minutes. And there's too many of them.
The Knicks just proved to me, you know what? I thought they were finally turning the corner into being aggressive and being a well-run organization, but no. The Knicks never stop nicking. It's the sad reality of being a Knicks fan. It's so funny. Look at the depth chart right now. They still have Elfrid Payton as the starter, Derrick Rose as the second string, Quickley as the third, Austin Rivers is the fourth, and Ntilikina as 5. I'm telling you straight up, and I hate Elfrid Payton. All 5 of those guys can get rotation minutes on any organization. So find somewhere to put them.
Well, you got to join a long list of people that hate Elfrid Payton. I tell you, man, I have never seen a player get so much hate. And Elfrid Payton just tried his best. No hate on him.
No, I'm sure he's a wonderful man.
Yeah, he's not good. He's not good for the Knicks, and Knicks fans cannot stand him. I do feel bad for the hate he gets, but some of it's warranted. Tom Thibodeau is a great coach, but he struggles with rotations.
Yes. Now that
was a problem with him on the Bulls. He played his best players like Kyle Lofton.
Yeah, like Jimmy Butler would have an ankle injury like a week prior, and Tom Thibodeau will be right back to playing 40 minutes the next weekend, and then maybe even sometimes more because those teams are always going to overtime. So Jimmy Butler will be playing 45, 46 minutes a game, coming off an injury in two weeks before. The way that Thibodeau runs his rotations, like you said, it's just brutal to watch sometimes. But you can't argue with the mind that he has as a coach.
Yeah, in the post-game conference, they asked Jimmy Butler about the Derrick Rose trade. And he's like, "Oh, Tibbs getting the band back together." So start the Jimmy Butler hype getting traded to the Knicks.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you thought that.
And Joakim Noah's coming out of retirement.
Yep, Joakim.
Yeah. I
can't believe we're talking this much about the Knicks.
It's time to move on.
It's so brutal.
So there's a lot of teams this year that are underperforming in comparison to last year, my Heat included. You can arguably say your Celtics included.
Mm-hmm.
The Raptors included. This is a weird year, and we talked about it, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't remember where it was. But there's a lot of parity in the league. Like, 12-12 isn't great. It's 500. That would be that's the 5 seed in the East today. So there's a lot of bad records. But what do we think is going on we're starting the Eastern Conference with these teams that are top 4 seeds last year and played well that are struggling this year?
The East, like you said with the parity, they actually, I'd say they have a lot. I mean, 2 through 20, depending on how many games your team plays, 22 to 25 or so games right now. 2 teams have single-digit losses, and it's 7 and 8, so they're creeping up to the double digits themselves. The Bucks are actually finally kind of figuring it out. The Sixers have been playing pretty decent all season, but the Celtics just got their 10th loss of the season, falling to the Suns. And I won't put as much. Nick, I know you said the same thing about the Heat. They haven't had their full roster. Now the Celtics, they've been missing Marcus Smart for a few weeks now. Peyton Pritchard had some time out. He showed great signs as a potential maybe all rookie second team guard for the Celtics. He was playing really well at the start of the season. He missed some time. Tatum missed 5 games. Brown's been out for the past few. So, and Kemba doesn't know how to play basketball anymore. It looks like the Monstars got a hold of him. So the Celtics
Space Jam 2 is coming out.
Yeah, Space Jam 2 is coming out. So maybe they're already in production right now. So the Celtics are in a total state of dysfunction right now. I mean, talking about the Bonnies before, the Celtics are not deep at all. Oh my God! I hate to harp on him this much, but when Jeff Teague comes into the basketball game, I want to shut it off.
Who would you rather have, Alfred Payton or Jeff Teague?
You know what? Give me Payton, please, because at least Payton won't take 8 more shots after he makes 1.
You know what's funny is if you ask a Knicks fan the same question, they're taking Teague.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's all about perspective, but the way that Jeff Teague, basically ruins the entire mood of the game when he enters is just brutal, and I hate to, hate on a former All-Star for that 62 and 20 Hawks team in 2016, but Jeff Teague is quickly falling off the map, and we're seeing it now in Boston. I'm pretty upset about it because I was pretty optimistic heading into the season.
Yeah, obviously I was optimistic about my Heat, and you mentioned they haven't been healthy. They had a really tough schedule to start the year. I hope they're starting to come along.
I mean, they didn't lose anybody either.
They lost Avery. No, they didn't lose Avery. They lost Avery Crowder and gained Avery Bradley.
Oh, yes.
And that's it. Avery Bradley's now out 3 to 4 weeks, which is just fantastic. And Goran Dragic hit the left ankle sprain, so that's just fantastic. It's a weird season for my Heat, I'll tell you that. Hero just got moved to the bench to go back to his old 6-man role.
I heard that and one thing I'll say about Hero there that I'm very glad that he's embracing the role. He's not getting absorbed too much into the spotlight of what he did in the bubble. So I'm glad that he's kind of taking a step back and being like, listen, I'm not ready to be that catalyst trade piece for a Bradley Beal like people were saying for a long time.
No, listen, you know how when we talk about the bubble and the Heat obviously had a historic run to the finals, and a lot of people came out and said that they overperformed because of a bubble and it was a fluke. And yeah, they're having a tough start to the year, but if you look at individual numbers, Tyler Hero this season so far is still averaging exactly what he had in the bubble. So Hero has been doing what I expected him to do. So he averaged 13 last year, and I said this year he's probably going to average 17, 18. That's exactly what he's doing right now. So that's not the issue with him. The issue is the defense, and then the starting 4 spot for the Heat is a disaster. Kelly
I was
Olynyk
gonna say,
is
Kelly Olynyk
awful.
is the best power
When-
forward I see ranked here.
When
and that
he
just can't be good.
when he's on the court, it makes me want to turn off the game. It's really bad.
What's up with Precious?
He is a young Bam Adebayo, and I'm not saying that he's going to turn to Bam Adebayo. What I am saying is that Bam, if you look at his rookie year, played the same exact way. He was behind Whiteside. He didn't get a lot of minutes his rookie year because he had zero offensive ability. He just was a hustle guy and could get rebounds. That's what Precious is right now. I think he could develop in. He needs a decent guy to replace Bam for 10 minutes a game because he's the only thing you're losing is the mid-range jumper Bam has when they're on the floor.
Newly acquired, by the way.
And it's lethal. Like,
I haven't watched enough Heat games this year, I will admit.
He's shooting, I think, about 65% from the mid-range. So, and I saw a comparison on Twitter with no joke. This was a little absurd, but it made my heart happy.
I was just saying, I'm sure it made you happy.
In a bad Heat way. He's like, Bam Adebayo is becoming the next Dwayne Wade, but in this respect of a big man position. The person tweeted out and said, whenever Bam takes the mid-range, I just expect it to go well.
Oh, that's okay.
Hey, Bam's playing good in the mid-range.
Now, I just want to chime in one thing about the Heat before you say your next point. Bam is the leading scorer on this team. You will not win a playoff series with Bam as your leading scorer. Promise you that.
Well, that's the greatest thing about this team is that once someone tells Jimmy Butler it's a playoff team, he turns into a top 5 player.
Yeah, I mean, 7 guys do average double digits, and don't hate on Kelly Olynyk too much. He's averaging 10 a game.
Whoa. Come on. Yeah. What they say about Trae Young, they say, hey, scoring 30 means nothing when you give it up 30. For Kelly Olynyk, scoring 10 means nothing when you give up 25.
There you go. All right, I'll take that. But even 6 players averaging more than 13, and your boy.
The team's very balanced.
Yeah, your team is very balanced. Now they were very balanced last year throughout the entire playoffs. I think Jimmy Butler has to be able to turn that next gear on to be the go-to scorer that they signed him to be.
Yeah, he hasn't made a 3 this year. He's borderline on Ben Simmons range right now.
Oh
no, it's weird. I don't get it because he was a lethal shooter for the Bulls and was good on the Timberwolves from 3 and even good for the 76ers from 3. And he went to Miami and all of a sudden he forgot how to shoot a 3-point shot. But enough with the Heat. Before we move into some names to look on the trade deadline, I want to talk about another team that we mentioned in this little segment. The Toronto Raptors have been struggling. And they were the 2 seed last year, and we talked to Jack Armstrong earlier this last week.
Didn't press him too much about how the Raptors struggles, but
yeah, and he's their play-by-play guy. But they're 10-13, and they had the second best record in the NBA last year.
They're turning the corner, though.
They have been getting better, but can you tell me what you think is the reason for their early struggles?
Well, if you really want me to
dive into it, let's go.
All right, it's Beyblade Boy. It's the spin move Sinatra. It's Pascal Siakam who just forgets how to play basketball. Fred VanVleet's averaging 20 this year. He's doing his job. He just set the single game record for points in a game as a Raptor. Siakam, what are you averaging right now? No, all right, actually, you know what? I thought it was less, but he's averaging less than 20 points. He was averaging 24 last season. 8 rebounds. He's not very efficient at all. Pascal Siakam has to be the number 1 option for this team because I love Fred VanVleet and I think he can win you games. But what you need, like I said in the playoffs, when you need to get a go-to guy, like Siakam's got to be that guy for them. And I talked about Kemba getting his power stolen from the Monstars. Jaylen Brown might have stolen Pascal Siakam's powers directly, and that's translated to his heck of a season so far.
And he has had a heck of a season. Moving into the Western Conference, when we talk about teams that have been struggling, because this is one that is very, very surprising to some, is the Dallas Mavericks. They currently have the second worst record in the Western Conference, which is crazy because 10-14, you wouldn't think it's bad, but it's not as bad as you'd think the second worst in their respective conference. Luka had a hell of a run in the postseason last year, coming up short against the Clippers. What do you think is the issue with this team?
Okay, so I'll tell you, I don't think that Porzingis is a number 2 option.
No, the Knicks didn't even get a good return. Their main return on that trade, they got picks, which right now is technically.
I was going to say there's been reports that the Knicks might win the Porzingis trade if this Mavericks team doesn't get much better because it's all Luka Doncic.
Think about it. They got Dennis Smith Jr. in like a first-round pick. That was what headlined it. And the first-round pick right now is surprising everyone, being literally it would be like top 3.
Yeah.
It would be, I think, actually 4 or 5.
And that's a great. We talked extensively about this past draft. Deep is the term for next year's.
This is
if you can get the 4, if you can get the 4, the 5, or even the 6, you're still getting a guy who could contribute right away.
No, there's a top 3 in this next draft when you look at it. Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, and Cade Cunningham. They have moved. Those 3 has moved themselves ahead of the pack. But don't kid yourself. You will find some studs coming up from 4 through 10.
Absolutely. Now you're talk about this Mavericks team. I want to mention that they still beat Steph Curry when he dropped 57.
Curry, man.
That Warriors team, man.
Backwards.
I'm sorry to just delve right off of the Mavericks here, but they did play the Warriors just a few days ago. Curry was pulling from half court with 20 seconds on the shot clock and draining it, and his team couldn't do anything. I was so annoyed after that game when people were calling Draymond the Swiss Army knife and praising him for his stat line. Dude had 0 points. He had nothing. He can't score. You need to be able to score when you're next to Steph Curry. Oh my God. The praise that he got for that game, and I love Draymond. I think he's a Hall of Famer. But the praise he got after that performance just boggled my mind.
You quickly talking about the Warriors and Steph Curry. Steph Curry has proven to me this year that when he's on a heater, he is the most entertaining sports athlete in all sports. You can tell me Mahomes making those crazy throws, yeah, that's entertaining. But Steph Curry, when he's flaming hot, is must-see TV. I could watch him play basketball for a week straight without a break. He's so entertaining.
I would have told you last week that I'd never be tuning into Mavericks Warriors this year. I have to now, just because like Curry, when he's not playing a great defense, it's free reign for him.
And when they don't triple team him, he's going crazy every single game.
And could you just imagine? If they had Clay right now?
I told you that I would have. I said last year that if in our last semester, I said if Clay is fully healthy, I was picking them to come out of the West. Curry, Clay, and Wiggins with Wiseman.
Yeah, you know what?
I was gonna pick them to come out of the West this year.
As of many takes that I actually don't remember between you, Tom, even myself. That's one that I specifically remember you saying, like, listen, this Warriors team's running it back. They got the 2 scores they need, and Wiseman's going to be a good addition. Wiseman has been a pretty good addition so far, but obviously they're missing Clay, and that's just going to hurt the Warriors as far as the season goes. I don't really even think they're a playoff team right now, to be quite honest.
Well, they're the 8th seed now, but just think about what Clay would have brought to this team. They're doubling, triple team Curry. When Clay's on the floor, you can't do that because he's also a sniper. Wiggins is playing unbelievably good defense. Yeah, he's not playing the offense people thought he would, but he's turning himself into one of the best wing defenders in the NBA, which is something I didn't think I would even remotely come close to saying 2 years ago.
Oh, my God.
But it's a real thing. It's just saying, because they traded for Oubre to try to replace Clay this year, and obviously they weren't going to replace him. They wouldn't have Oubre if they didn't lose Clay. So that starting 5 would be Curry, Clay, Wiggins, Dre, Wiseman.
Okay.
Oh, I would have. I told you. I'll die on this hill. I think it would have been Nets, and this was before the Harden trade too.
Yeah.
I had Warriors versus Nets NBA Finals. That was my prediction.
We both did have Nets. I had Lakers actually, or maybe I had the Clippers. I'm not sure. See, I forget my own take sometimes. I just looked at the Warriors, stat leaders. I had no idea that Draymond averaged less than 5 points a game.
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes he has these 0-point nights where, like, he does the good other stuff, but I'm still going to say you need the scoring. But 4.8 points a game, I'll actually, like, if he does that the rest of his career, I'm going to have to take him out of the Hall of Fame. Like, that is brutal. Like, brutal with a capital B.
No, what's brutal is what Kelly Oubre
I'm not going to talk about it.
27% from 3.
Warriors fans can do enough of the trash talking on
39 from the field. I expected more things from Eric Pascal, too.
Yeah, he had a really nice rookie season. I mean, he was never going to be a guy who was going to average more than 15, 7. But he's only averaging 2.9 rebounds per game. He's supposed to be they're one of their biggest. He plays he only plays 17 minutes a game. That's not much at all.
No,
You got to play him more.
I'm saying free Curry. Obviously, he's retiring a Warrior. I just pray and hope that they get one more full season of him and Clay in their prime still. I want to see it one more time. I want to see him run it back. Because obviously Draymond's exited he's not there anymore. But you're going to think Wiseman replaces that.
Yeah.
So I want to see
Hopefully
that.
we see, because like we said, Pascal, he did have some potential last year. He made the all-rookie first team, I believe.
Yeah, he was really good as a rookie.
Yeah. So, and then you got, if Oubre can somehow turn it around, you still got Wiggins there. If you add to this team and maybe a bench piece or two, or a good draft pick, that's a playoff team. That's a deep playoff team, in my opinion.
Yeah. Let's just see. Well, let's move on. We're going to say 2 names to look out for the trade deadline because there's a lot. This is an interesting regular season. There's been a lot of talks about trades with some big-name players. And let's start with you. What's a name that you're looking out for in the trade deadline?
Okay, so I haven't really, been too much involved as far as, under the radar-ish guys who could get moved. But a lot of teams, like we said before, there's so much parity in the league, and some of these contending teams are going to need to make a move to get them over the hump. So a guy who I believe who could absolutely take a team from playoff to contender is Evan Fournier from the Magic. He's averaging 17 points right now, and that's what a lot of these contending teams need is just extra scoring, albeit not the Nets, but some of these other defensive-oriented teams, like if you put Fournier on the Bucks, come on. They're scoring from any angle. He's a guy who can create his own shot. He's been playing and averaging around 17 to 18, 20 points over the last few years for the Magic, and they currently sit at the bottom of the East, second or third to last from the East, from what I saw, and that's going to be a team that's going to need more draft picks. Like the Magic have been in full-blown rebuild for probably 20 years now, which is kind of ridiculous. They did make a finals with Dwight Howard, but that quickly fizzled out. The Magic have been in a state of mediocrity for 10 years now, and the one guy that they can get some good value for, besides Vucevic, who I don't think they'll move because he's just been playing unreal for them, is Fournier. And I think for a team like the Clippers, for a team like the Jazz, who really need that extra guy because the Jazz really don't have if you believe Donovan Mitchell is, so be it, but the Jazz really don't have that go-to, go get me a bucket in the last minute of the conference finals. I'm not talking first round of the playoffs because we saw what he did then. When you're talking like when the heat is on and you're in the conference finals, say game 5, game 6, and it's a turning point game, the Jazz don't have that guy in my opinion. Fournier is a guy who can, open the floor up for them even more because the way that they've had their roster, Bogdanovich isn't playing great anymore. He's kind of past his prime. Fournier is a guy who can step right into any offense and just make it 10 times better. That's why I think he's a guy to look out for come trade time.
Yeah, it's funny to hear Evan Fournier be a major piece of the deadline. But I don't disagree. Everything you said is true. He can get a bucket whenever he wants, and he'd be great coming off the bench.
Been a serious under-the-radar guy over the past couple of years because he plays in Orlando. And a lot of those guys on the Magic can be very serviceable NBA players on other teams, but they're all jumbled together on the Magic, and it just doesn't result in wins.
Yeah, and I'll go with my first guy. And it's no secret. I'm a fan of this guy. It's pretty blatant. But Lonzo Ball has been rumored to be on a trade deadline or trade rumors this year. There's a lot of teams I think can use him. I don't know if he will go to a contender or if he will go to a team still rebuilding. Because there's a rumor today that the Bulls would be the top landing spot for him right now. Because they want him with Kobe White off ball. Because they see him more of as a scoring guard more than a point guard. So I could see what they mean if they move Levine to the 3. And they both can't defend a soul, so they need a perimeter defender. But that's my point. Lonzo Ball is a above average, getting into really good perimeter defender. He's been having a heck of a season defensively this year. I would have him as an all-NBA defender, whether it be first or second team right now, because that's how good he's been playing this year defensively. But he's averaging a career-high 13 points so far this year. And this is him playing a totally different role. He's not being the point guard everyone thought. Stan Van Gundy's playing him as a shooting guard, a 3-and-D guy, and he's playing well. shooting 36% from three this year on 7 attempts. That's pretty good. He, like I said, he's having a career high in the last 5 games. He's averaging 18, 7.5 rebounds, and shooting 60% from three. I'm not saying he's taking the leap, but he's taking a jump up to what people are starting to see. I think if he was able to run point guard on his own team, he would be able to average around 18, 7, and 7, honestly. That's where I am with him. But if you are a contender that needs a point guard, the Clippers have been rumored to kind of be interested in him. He would be so good on the Clippers for them. It'd be so good. Just think about this. You got Kawhi and PG doing their thing, and then they actually have a point guard that can make for others and shoot the 3 ball, because that's what Patrick Beverley can't do. I think he'd be a really good fit on a contending team, and he should be out there on the trade deadline, and he will help a lot of people out.
And listen, I mean, not only is Lonzo a better 3-point shooter than Patrick Beverley, he's younger. He's bigger. He's way bigger. He can defend 3 positions. And I mean, whether you want to believe it or not, I just don't think Patrick Beverley can. He can guard one of the two, but sometimes he struggles with bigger bodies. Lonzo's 6'7". He can match up with a lot of big guys on the wing. So that guy, Lonzo can make a lot of noise for a playoff team and provide, the defense actually that needs to that some of these score heavy teams need to get over the hump. My next player for potential trade targets at the deadline is going to be a familiar name, somebody who's just been traded this year, actually a former Magic shooting guard, Victor Oladipo. According to ESPN's and St. Bonaventure's Tim Bontemps, several executives around the league do think that Houston could flip Oladipo after they just got him. And most recently, the Rockets have actually had some decent success. Now, are the Rockets going to make the playoffs? No. Are the Rockets going to win anything, really? No. So why would you want to keep that, catalyst to – because Victor Oladipo's been averaging nearly 20 points, 5 and 5 so far this season. So why would you want to keep a guy on that team? And I'm not promoting tanking, but, I mean, this is a loaded draft. The Rockets just got rid of their franchise player for 8 years. You're going to need a new guy to step in. Victor Oladipo is not going to be that guy for you down the stretch or just in the coming years. So why not flip him now, get some good value out of him, maybe a first-round pick from a team that needs a guy like that, like Denver, a team that needs a guy like that, like the Mavericks. They could flip Tim Hardaway Jr. and a first-round pick for Victor Oladipo. I don't know if that's too much. It probably is too much, but the Rockets are going to need some draft compensation. So I don't know what their cap is looking like right now. I don't know what kind of salaries they can absorb and what other teams can absorb, but I know that 28 out of 30 teams don't have any room, so that they're gonna need to trade a piece. So hopefully, I'm not sure what the Mavericks feel about Tim Hardaway Jr., but that might be a good look to flip him for Oladipo, who's been playing pretty well this season. And, he was an all-star 2 years ago. He may never be back there, but he still can produce at a pretty high level. And teams like the Mavericks who need to make a playoff push because they don't really have much room to kind of improve as far as just their current roster stands. Denver needs that guy for one more over the hump. And you know what? I bet you Lonzo could get traded for Victor Oladipo, and then that would send him to New Orleans. That would be another place where I could see him kind of succeeding as well.
That would be an interesting move. Victor Oladipo, I do think he'll get traded.
Yeah, there's no way he can't stay in Houston.
I want him to find a way, and I think he wants to find a way. And I hate to bring him up again, and they're going to get brought up in a second again, is my Miami Heat. They've been linked to the name of Victor Oladipo for a while. I thought they were going to trade for him in the offseason. Victor he's interesting because he's very, very good. It seems like he's wanted to play in Miami for a while. Like, this is no joke. Like, this has been reported that he wants to play in Miami. Mm-hmm. And Miami didn't pull a trigger on him. They didn't trade. I thought they were going to trade none in the 20th pick this year for Oladipo. I'm surprised they didn't.
I wonder if that would have got done.
I think it would have.
Yeah, because Indiana. And did they really even get more for trading him away?
Not to mention Kendrick Nunn finished in second in the Rookie of the Year voting. A young player that's good in the 20th pick. I'm surprised they get done, but I'll get into my player that interesting for the trade deadline is Kyle Lowry. And we talked, obviously, with Jack Armstrong last week about Kyle Lowry, and he's all-time franchise leader in almost about everything for the Toronto Raptors. But another report that came out these past couple of days that they might send out Lowry in order to have him compete on a contender for the remaining years if the Raptors continue to struggle. And the Miami has been linked to that name. They haven't been interested. Kyle Lowry's really good friends with Jimmy Butler. I think it could happen, and I don't know what it would take for the trades, but it'd be interesting to see Kyle Lowry in a uniform other than a Raptors. Obviously, he hasn't been on the Raptors' whole career. He started in Memphis and was on Houston for a little bit, but has been on Toronto for this last 9 years and been pretty good. But I feel like there's a way he can get traded, but only if the Raptors continue to struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. They do have a stretch of games coming up where it just doesn't look like that same struggle at least is going to continue. But that kind of leads us, into tonight's picks and rolls, our two best bets of the night. Now, I didn't do so hot last week. Actually, one of my games of that Monday night got postponed, so I went 0-1 on the night. Nick, did you go 1-1?
I went 1-1.
Okay, all right. So you didn't lose too much.
Yeah, I remember I took the Blazers to cover 10 points against the Bucks, and they got blown up by 30. And then I had the Suns covering 2 points against the Mavericks, and Devin Booker actually hit a game-winning 3.
Ooh, save the record.
Down two. I would have pushed, but I'd take the win.
Absolutely. And I'll get right into my first best bet of the night, and that is, like we just mentioned, Kyle Lowry and the Toronto Raptors going on the road to Memphis, who's been playing pretty decent this season, but they're missing some guys. Toronto's actually -3 on the road. I think that's an absolute hammer. But you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. But no, yeah, I think that's a game that the Raptors win by. I think they could win it by double digits. They could win it by 6, but I think they're going to cover 3.
Yeah, I can see it. The Grizzlies have played bad in the past couple of games. They could bounce back.
They're only 3-6 at home too.
That's what scares me. A bounce back game is coming soon.
Definitely though.
Okay, mine first is we talked about them earlier. These Golden State Warriors, they're 1.5-point underdogs.
Oh, come on.
Against the Spurs, I just feel like this is a game the Warriors win.
It's the one. I mean, you kind of have to beat the Spurs, man. Like The
Spurs are so weird. Like, they're just not flashy. They had never been, but they're 13-10.
I couldn't tell you the last time I watched a Spurs game.
Oh, I have not watched a Spurs game since the 2014 finals.
Ooh. I think the last time I watched a Spurs game was when Gordon Hayward broke his hand for the Celtics early last season. Feel bad for DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge, two guys who were, pretty prominent NBA, faces of the league. For a few years now, they're just kind of willowing away in San Antonio with Greg Popovich in his final years as a head coach. But yeah, that's got to be a game that the Warriors take care of.
All right, what's your second one?
My second one, and they're putting it together. It's a bad matchup for the Nuggets. Bucks are going to cover. I got 2 road favorites tonight. This is not going to go well. I could go 0-2 very easily. Road favorites are notoriously a mush bet, but Milwaukee's going to beat. They're actually turning the corner just at the right time. The Nuggets they've been struggling as of late. Like I said before, they're going to need another piece to really be contending. Obviously, Jokic has been playing like an MVP, but other than that, Jamal Murray has not been the same product that he was in the bubble. Michael Porter looks like he still belongs on the bench, and they could use that guy like Oladipo. So the Nuggets are struggling, and I'm going to take Milwaukee -3.5 on the road.
Well, that's interesting. Because my pre-show take was Nuggets +1.5.
Oh, yes. We finally got a head-to-head matchup. Let's go.
Home underdogs, the Nuggets. You say they're struggling recently. They lost their last to the Kings, but with Jamal Murray didn't play in that game. You forget, they were like 4 games under 500 earlier in the year. They're 12-10. They're on a little bit of a run.
Oh, they actually are on a little bit of a run. They were okay, so I haven't paid much attention to the Nuggets as much.
Jokic is... If the season ended today, would be my MVP. He just dropped 50 points, 8 rebounds, and 12 assists against the Kings Saturday. He's on an absolute tear. They're at home. It's a mile high. Giannis is going to get gassed.
Oh, you're an Aaron Denver guy. He's an Aaron Denver guy. All right, listen, I'll tell you right now that the Nuggets have lost 3 of the last 4, and one was including the Spurs that we just talked about. But no, that could go either way. But I'm very happy that we have a.
This is the first time ever.
It's the first time ever we had a head-to-head matchup for our picks and rolls. So that's a great sign for next week's banter when we open up this week in this league.
Yeah, and we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we talk about can the Bucks repeat. We talk about the Brady and Tyrann Mathieu feud, and there was a streaker. We'll even get into that when we come back on the Director's Cut live from St. Bonaventure University on 80.3 The Buzz with Nic Rohloff and Tyler Smith. Stay tuned in.
Go. Want to do what we're doing? Join the buzz. We have sports, news, and music shows live on air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Want to record a podcast? Come spend the night recording a podcast with your friends in our exclusive production booth. We have 8 different departments you can be involved in so many different ways. We attend our virtual interest meeting this Thursday at 7 p.m. on Zoom. And if you want to find out why or find out how, check out our Twitter at WSBU or Instagram at @thebuzz_WSBU for a Google form link to sign up, or check out tomorrow's SBU notice board. Come join us at the number 4 college radio station in the country.
Yeah, perfectly well done, said Tyler. Yeah, make sure to join. We're awesome. And we got a bunch of cool things coming. And obviously, welcome back to the Director's Cut with Nic Rohloff and Tyler Smith. With about 18 minutes remaining in our show, the Bucks obviously just won a Super Bowl in Brady's first year, but there's a lot of free agents. It's going to be very interesting to see how they handle this offseason. And that's going to beg the question, can they repeat and be the first time since 03-04 Patriots?
So I saw something earlier today that said, this is from Peter King, and it was a Bruce Arians comment about Mike Evans. He said that Mike Evans is the most unselfish superstar that he's ever seen, because he said that the team can take some of his money so that they can bring everybody back to run this title defense. So this Bucks team seems like they're very invested, and it's so funny. Just a year ago, they were 7-9. They bring in Tom Brady, win the Super Bowl, and now everybody's all buying it. Everybody's buying on the Bucks. You know, they're dotting their I's, they're crossing their T's, and not cutting any corners. This team wants to, be a dynasty for the remaining years of Brady's career. I mean, we don't even know how many years Brady has left in his career with the way he was playing this season. So I think that the Bucks are going to find a way to bring everybody back. I'm sure some guys will take team friendly deals, and like we talked about, they're super entertaining and our favorite secondary in the league. A lot of those guys are rookies, second years, like they're all on their rookie deals. Those guys. So this Bucks defense is going to need a lot less work than the offense as far as paying people. But watch out for whatever money Devin White's going to command. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and luckily they don't have to pay him this offseason.
Yeah.
But like you said, the secondary is young and awesome, and they're going to all be there next year. The issues are the veteran players.
On the D-line, definitely.
On the D-line and the veteran offensive players. Chris Godwin's 24. He's going to command money.
Wow. Well, you know what?
He's a free agent.
He has done nothing in the playoffs, okay? He's done nothing.
He's still the second. Some people might think because how young he is, the best free agent wide receiver. I still think it would be Allen Robinson.
I agree.
The thing was, Levante David's a free agent. Shaq Barrett's a free agent. And Dominic Sue is a free agent.
Okay.
Leonard Fournette's a free agent. Antonio Brown's a free agent. Rob Gronkowski's a free agent. And I already mentioned Chris Godwin. So if I had to give my predictions on what they do this offseason, I think they sign Shaq Barrett to a deal.
Gotta sign Shaq Barrett.
I think they sign Levante David to a 2-year deal.
Have to.
I think
Levante David will take a team-friendly deal.
I think Sue goes.
I don't need him.
I think unless Fournette wants a multi-year deal, I think he gets re-signed down a 1-year, $3.5, $4 million deal.
That's
same
it?
thing, same exact thing with Antonio Brown. And then the question is about Chris Godwin. Is he gonna be able to walk? And the Bucks also have the chance to franchise tag him.
They're going to do that.
That's my prediction, is that they're going to franchise tag Godwin.
I didn't even think
Or they sign Shaq and Levante to big deals, and they bring back Sue and let Godwin walk, assuming Antonio Brown's with the team in next year, because they still do have Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson, who didn't get to play a lot in the Super Bowl, but they made plays throughout the season. There is a way that I think Chris Godwin isn't a Buck, but if I had to give my prediction, is that he gets franchise tagged.
Yeah, that's a pretty good prediction. I didn't even know he was eligible for the franchise tag. But yeah, he, like you said, he is 24. He's coming up on that after the fifth year of his, or the fourth year, I believe, of his NFL career. Antonio Brown's interesting because I don't see a lot of teams. There's not going to be a huge market for him.
There's going to be 2 or 3 team market.
2 or 3 teams, and when it comes down to it, Antonio Brown loves Tom Brady.
I think he
loves
ends
him.
up. I think he's going to be with the Bucs again next year.
I'm more curious to see what kind of money he gets. I 100% believe he's going to be a Buck again. The good part about this Bucs team is that they keep their offensive line intact. They just drafted Tristan Wirfs, who looks like the best O-line in this draft so far. And this draft was deep on the tackles. So they get to keep their O-line, to keep Brady protected. Wasn't pressured a whole lot last night. Sue, you really don't have to get rid of. I mean, Sue, you can let walk because you got Vita Vea. Jason Pierre-Paul, you got to keep him because, I mean, you need some sort of pass rush semblance to what you had this year. And then obviously Shaq Barrett is going to command the most money out of anybody on this team. Because Levante David, I mean, you forget, but I mean, he's 31 years old already. So that he can still have that big last deal of his career. Then he obviously keeps signing, team-friendly 1-year deals once he turns maybe 34, 35. But Shaq Barrett is obviously the guy that we're going to need the Bucs to resign. He's only 28. You get him on a 4-year deal until he's 32, and he's still producing at a high level. This guy was an absolute animal, screaming off the edge last night, and you just can't argue with not giving that guy the bag.
You can almost guarantee if Rob Gronkowski and Antonio Brown play football next year, it's going to be for the Bucs.
Oh yeah, which is it's such a great situation to have.
Yeah, these players are gonna, if they're gonna want to play football, it's gonna have to be for you you're basically get to decide the contract. So it's good for the Bucs. And like you said, all the important things are already set. They still have their number one wide receiver, Mike Evans. They still have their quarterback. They still have their O-line. They still have their literally whole secondary, which is a rarity in the NFL to somehow not have a single starting secondary member have the potential to walk.
Okay, did you? I want to just backtrack just a second. Did you say that Ronald Jones was a free agent as well?
He's not.
Okay, so you don't have to keep Fournette if he's commanding.
I expect him to still come back for $3.5 million, though. I don't think he.
You don't think he gets any more money than that?
I think he wants to play on Tampa, but if he wants more money, then they can rely back on Ronald Jones because this was only his second year, like Devin White. They got him in the same draft. I think they got Ronald in the second round, and they drafted Keyshawn Vaughn in the third this year, who could be a decent backup running back if he learns and gets a full off season. So,
yeah, he had some decent runs this season during the regular season.
Yeah, but Fournette was just so good in this postseason. He played himself into.
That's what I'm saying. He played himself into a contract. So, I think he's going to get 6. Dude, he's like, what is he now? 25, 26?
He's still young.
Maybe. He's 26. He just turned 26 last month. So he's still got 4 more years of solid football left. There's no way he doesn't get a 2-year, 3-year deal from somebody. I can't see it.
But my question is where?
The Bills?
But Aaron Jones is out there too. He's a free agent.
Wow. Yeah, I think Chris Carson's out there.
There's a lot of free agent running backs where Leonard Fournette might slide on the rug and just get $3.5 million, like I said, going back to Tampa.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of places where we could see these big name offensive producers moving around the league this year. And honestly, the more I think about it, I could see Chris Godwin not be on the team. I could see them drafting a wide receiver. Where else do they have a team? Like where else are they in a position of need?
I just think that with Brady being how old he is and just winning a Super Bowl, and they're still in win now mode because their quarterback is 43, going to be 44 by the time next season starts.
Oh my God.
They don't have leeway to get a rookie wide receiver. I think they have to keep Godwin.
So you just I guess you keep Godwin, maybe bolster up the pass rush again if you let Sue go. I just don't. There's no holes in this team in my opinion. There's really not a lot of.
The only hole on the team was honestly secondary.
And it's not these guys. All 4 of these guys: Carlton Davis, Antoine Winfield, Jordan Whitehead, and Sean Murphy-Bunting, and Jamel Dean, and even Ross Cockrell.
And they're only going to get better.
They're only going to get better, and they're all going to be back for not only next year. They probably will all be back the year after that as well. It's kind of ridiculous, unless one of them just has an absurd season, demands a trade, and goes and becomes the number 1 secondary member on another organization.
There were talks today in the sports show world could the Bucs be the first team to ever three-peat? And it's bold because they've only won.
This always happens, though. This always happens. They said the same thing about the Chiefs last year.
But the blueprint is there, though. They got a young defense outside of JPP and
Levante.
Yeah, and Dominic Sue.
Yeah.
And then you have the quarterback and you have the wide receivers. You got the O-line. The blueprint is there. Do I think it's going to happen? No. It's never happened before, ever.
It's crazy.
Like I said, it's been 16 years since someone repeated. And think about all the good teams that have won a Super Bowl in that span. They never won 2 in a row.
That's so crazy. I'm just looking at this roster and I don't see it. I'm telling you right now, there's no way that they three-peat, but they could win.
They could easily win another one.
They could win another one in the next 2 years. They could absolutely win another one in the next 2 years. And if I had to put money somewhere, I'd say the Chiefs win one of the other ones. These 2 teams are easily the top 2 in the NFL right now, in my opinion. And some people are just proclaiming the Packers to be so back. Did you see?
I'm not all in.
I'm not all in on them. Nope.
I would think, and this might be aggressive, and I said it last week when we talked about Stafford, but I would think I said that I would have the Rams last week as the conference favorites in the NFC going into next year, and lost the Bucs 1. So the Bucs 1, I think they're the favorites to come out the NFC.
Absolutely.
I would put the Rams 2, and I would put the Packers 3, but I wouldn't have an issue putting your Seahawks 4, or 3 instead of the Packers.
The Seahawks got to make a decision on Jamal Adams. They have to find a way to let Russ cook again. obviously we poached, like I said, to Lofa Tupu. My opening question was, we poached a bunch of Rams, coaches away. So maybe that, Sean McVay magic rubs off on our offense, and we finally put it together for us to get an MVP vote, because I'm not satisfied with Man of the Year. I love that award. It's probably the most prestigious award in the NFL, but I'm about winning that Super Bowl, and Russell Wilson is going to need an MVP vote if he's going to win a Super Bowl.
He didn't get one again, right?
No.
It's so funny, because what was the only thing we talked about in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season? How does he never have an MVP vote? Oh, that's certainly going to change this year.
And he fell off in the entire second half. Once the defense got better, Russell Wilson got worse. When the defense was terrible, Russell Wilson was balling. Got to find a happy medium in Seattle. I got a lot of thoughts about them next year, but I won't express them all now, as we only have about 6 minutes left before we close. But this game had more than just a game. There was a pretty, different halftime show. The Weeknd did a pretty good job. Not going to harp too much on that, but it was solid.
It was all right.
Yeah.
I'm
not a halftime show guy, really. I'm there for the pigskin, but what happened during the game was there was a streaker on the field. You couldn't, for promotional reasons, you could not have them show it on CBS in case he had a sign advertising or something like that. But no, he just had a women's bodysuit on, and he was running to the end zone. And everybody's commending this guy. He got stopped short. He slid at the 1.
Yeah, and then he got gang tagged.
And he got absolutely. Yeah, that was something I saw. PFT commenter said that's targeting 15 easy. But a funny story I just wanted to touch on about this streaker is that he was seen in a restaurant, and I'm just going to read this text to you of an Instagram post I saw. It says, met the Super Bowl streaker at Jay Alexander's restaurant while having lunch before leaving Tampa. He bet $50,000 on a prop bet at plus 750 odds that there would be a streaker at the Super Bowl. His buddy went out first as a diversion, so he didn't get caught as quickly as his friend. It cost him $1,000 to get out of jail this morning, so he cleared $374,000 on the bet.
That's a smart way to make money, I guess.
I mean, have you ever seen a freer $350,000? I mean, I haven't.
My only question is, why not bet more?
I know. Why not put the milli on it? If you're really that confident, I mean, maybe he wasn't that confident he could make it all the way out onto the field, but I mean, it was a nice chuckle in the middle of the game that wasn't super exciting at that point.
Yeah, when he did it, it was pretty much all over. Going back to the NFL honors of Saturday, do you have any problems with any of the awards? Like MVP Aaron Rodgers, obviously Justin Herbert Rookie of the Year, Chase Young Defensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year Donald, Offensive Player of the Year Derrick Henry, Comeback Player of the Year Alex Smith. That's one of my issues, that he was not unanimous. Someone voted Big Ben, which is
absurd.
Dumb.
Big Ben didn't even have a good year.
What did he come back from? A shoulder injury. Someone almost lost their leg, but I don't want to harp on that too much. He should have been unanimous.
Oh, absolutely.
No doubt about it. But did you have any problem with any of the award winners?
I mean, listen, the only people that had a problem with Justin Herbert winning Rookie of the Year were Minnesota writers.
And Nic Rohloff.
Wow. So you thought that Justin Jefferson should have been the Rookie of the Year?
I did, because in this day and age of quarterbacks, they come in much better than have they done in the past. And yeah, he broke the records, but it's not like it's something that doesn't get done all the time. Like, think about this.
Burrow was going to do it.
Burrow's on pace. Baker did it. Luck did it. Like, it's the rookie touchdown record has been broken like 4 or 5 times in this past decade. The receiving record Justin Jefferson set for receiving yards by a rookie was a record, I believe, that lasted around 20 to 25 years. That, to me, breaking that record is more impressive than a quarterback record that gets broken every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, you know what? I had no problem with that. I think it could have been either of them. I wouldn't have been like, oh wow, Justin Herbert, he got robbed if Jefferson won the award. That was not the case.
The thing about this though, this is my only thing. One more before I let you keep on going.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson was a top 10 wide receiver this year as a rookie.
100%.
I don't think Herbert was a top 10 quarterback this year as a rookie.
I disagree.
You think he was top 10 this year?
I think he was right at that 9-10, yeah.
Justin Jefferson was so good, and it's so rare to see a rookie come in and command the coverage that he commanded.
Especially when Kirk Cousins is a quarterback.
Yeah.
But We did talk about it before. Justin Herbert was another one of those guys who was running for his life a lot. With a bad offensive line.
He was.
So that's why I have no issue with him winning the award. The only other one I had maybe T.J. Watt could have won Defensive Player of the Year.
A lot of Pittsburgh people have an issue with that. I don't.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it either. I mean, Aaron Donald still sets records, and he's getting triple teamed every play. So I mean, he's the best defensive player I've ever seen because I've never seen Lawrence Taylor play. But yeah, Aaron Donald is by far the best defensive football player that I've ever laid eyes on. He deserves it pretty much every year. It's like LeBron, winning the MVP every year.
Yeah, it's it does become voter fatigue for Aaron Donald. He's really good. But before we end our show, we asked our guests last week on Remote Radio Row the same question to end every time: what color would be the Gatorade? We had 4 or 5 guests, and no one guessed it right because the color was blue.
Blue.
Why was it blue?
I have no idea. Blue was plus 800 odds. So
just random color that has to do nothing with the team. I personally would have picked orange.
I would have picked either orange or lime. Those are just two of the most, in my opinion. You drink an orange Gatorade, that's very refreshing during playing a sport. Blue, not so much. Sometimes you get a little salty taste in there with the blue Gatorade, and the lime's another one that's pretty refreshing. When you're being athletic, so I didn't really understand the blue, but I mean I guess that's what Bruce Arians likes. I guess it's what the players like, and then that ended up being it. But nobody got it on our Remote Radio Bro. And by the way, Remote Radio Bro, great success. I hope we can ditch the remote part next year and head down to LA and SoFi Stadium for the next for Super Bowl 56. But that's years away. We got a lot to hash out. This past week was awesome, and we can't thank all of our guests enough for coming on the Director's Cut. It was awesome.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about football today. If you think that we aren't talking anything about football next week, you're a lunatic. I guarantee there's going to be something to talk about with football. Carson Wentz is going to be traded this week, apparently, so that'll be a discussion.
Yep.
But anyway, that's going to wrap up our show today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Tom, our third shout-out today, tweeted out, first time in Buzz history that we've been live on 4 platforms: Facebook Live, Twitter Live, either Periscope, YouTube, and obviously the main radio aspect of it.
FM.
So big shout out to everyone watching and listening today. Thanks so much. We'll be back next week on the Director's Cut from 6 to 8 and WSBU 80.3 The Buzz. Nick Rohloff and Tyler Smith signing out. See you guys next week.